You're listening to You're Probably Right with your host, MCM. Real talk, sharp takes, straight to the point, and quick disclaimer, this show is for entertainment purposes only, our opinions, not professional advice. Let's get started.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It is I, MCM, and hope you're having a good day or start to the day or end of the day. Who knows? Just remember, it's me and you sitting here. Now, I have a short little, I want to call it a lesson. Let's just say a post-like podcast episode today, okay? Episode number 242, The Vulnerability Paradox. Why men are told to open up, yet often penalized when they do so. It kind of, I guess, smells a little bit like, that's kind of wild. What people want to see as opposed to what they say they want to see in a man. And it's pretty much that simple. So I'm just going to go through a little reading. As I said before to someone, I could just let my AI just read this out for you and you can get all the information. And maybe you're good like that. I don't know. But I try to mix it up for you. If you listen to any of my other episodes, sometimes I'm doing questions and answers. Sometimes I have a fully structured talk on different topics. It's a whole bunch of different ranging styles of podcasts I do. So you never know what you're going to get from one show to the next. But one thing you do know is you're going to get me, same guy, same personality. And this is exactly what you've been given for the last 240 episodes, or 41, I think. No, it's 242 now. Okay, great. I know that I've done over 250 at least. Some episodes have like 3 parts and I didn't break them up or I didn't count them as other episodes. I just count them as a big block. So there's a lot of information, a lot of different places to start. Some stuff might be your cup of tea, and some stuff might not be exactly up your alley, but at the end of the day, it's me. And I just go through the different considerations that I have, just walking through life like everybody else. And I've lived a pretty interesting life. So I've got a lot to say generally. All right, so I'm going to read this out. I could have done it in a different way, just rambled on, but you might notice I'll probably stop here and there and add a little bit more to what I've got down here. But anyhow, I'm going to start it off. Okay, so you're listening to You're Probably Right. And today we're diving into something, and I hate when diving. We're not really diving. We're just kind of getting our toe wet into something that every man and woman has felt, but few talk about really out loud. We hear it all the time. Men should open up more, be emotionally available, be honest about their struggles. Although, who really wants to know about men's struggles? People say they do, right? But I really don't know how true that really is. Anyway, and in this theory, I guess, who wouldn't want, right? A guy who's more emotionally available, who's honest and talks about his struggles just a little bit, right? Exactly. But once you put a man into the dating world, especially in those fragile early stages, something inconvenient shows up. What's that, you say? The very openness we preach can make him seem actually less attractive, unless it's paired with signals of steadiness, competence, and direction. The gap between what's praised in public and what's rewarded, right, in private is what I would call a vulnerability paradox. Let's break it down. First impressions in dating are like thin slices of behavior. We judge fast and often without knowing much at all. And some emotions work in a man's favor while others don't. Studies show that women consistently rate a proud and self-confident look. And for that, you can think head high, chest out, steady gaze off into the distance. as one of the most attractive male cues. Meanwhile, a broad, eager, I'm doing this on purpose, y'all. There's no video, so I got to do what I can with my voice. A broad, eager smile, the kind that radiates joy, actually lowers sexual attraction in those first seconds. Smiling warms the heart, sure, but it often dampens the heat. Two different things. Friend zone, the zone, right? Shame or modesty, strangely enough, can land somewhere in the middle. Even more attractive than unguarded happiness in certain contexts, I guess. So, the lesson here is simple. Men who project competence and composure get noticed differently. So you'll still get noticed, but just differently than a man who radiates unchecked cheerfulness. Hey, everybody. You're just happy for no reason, right? So I guess it kind of goes off into the world of, is this guy crazy? Why is he smiling so much? Why is he so happy? Right. The same thing happens in put those two words together. Nice. Online dating. In one experiment, women were given 2 sample first messages from a man. The one with emotional words, "I'm thrilled, I'm excited to meet you," was picked nearly 3 out of 4 times. Enthusiasm helped, but here's the catch. When the message included long personal stories and self-revealing details, interest dropped. Nobody wants to hear your whole baggage right from the beginning. People want to know that you have it all together, so that's why you don't do that, right? Moderate openness won, but oversharing felt very, 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 very risky. Too little feels cold, too much feels heavy. A man hinting at feelings inside a steady frame is usually more attractive than a man who unloads his whole entire emotional backpack all at once. Why? Because here's the truth. And of course I'm going off the beaten path of what I've actually typed out here. The reason is that people want mystery. People want the story. At least women do, right? Guys, you can just give us the skinny. What happened here? What happened there? And this is the result. For women, a woman who, say, a guy wants to date or is thinking of marrying or whatever it is, they want to peel everything off layer by layer. They want to know what's happening. They want to know what the situation is. Why was he over there in the first place? What was he doing when he put the backpack on the bag on the table? What kind of backpack it might have been? Like, they want to know the details. It's more interesting than just getting to the point. And I think that's one of those issues that guys have been struggling with probably from the beginning of time, is guys just want to get to the point, and the story, the visuals, the feelings, everything else is more important than just what happened. You understand? Hopefully you understand. Okay. That's the first edge of the paradox. In public, we clap for men who talk about feelings. Privately, women still screen for stability. So they don't want you to think, they don't want to see, like, they know that men have feelings. They know that men have been through stuff in their lives as well. But they want to know that you're stable and whatever it is, you're handling it. You know, they want a guy who is competent and not frazzled or rattled by the various little things. Because honestly, they have enough of that in their own world. And if you're unstable and she's unstable and you're emotional and she's emotional, then it's like, who's going to steady the ship? Got me? Women still screen for stability. And you can't blame them. Now, you know, later on in your relationship, that's probably going to change. They're probably going to want you to open up more and more, even though people would still argue that that still kills attraction, that tension. But you do become, I would say, more friends as your relationship carries on, Anyhow, and you can't blame them anyway for wanting stability. Strength and reliability matter when you're choosing a partner, but stigma still haunts men's mental health. Millions of men deal with depression and anxiety, yet they are far less likely than a woman to actually seek treatment. Men account for nearly 4 out of 5 suicides, dying at 4 times the rate of women. It's devastating, of course. Why don't they speak up sooner? Because in our culture, admitting to a mental health struggle often feels like breaking the unwritten rule of masculinity. The rule that says, be strong, self-reliant, never show cracks, never let them see you sweat. So men hide, not because they don't feel, but because they're taught those feelings are dangerous to show. Now layer in something called pluralistic ignorance. Studies show both men and women underestimate how willing men really are to getting help. Men think that their male peers will look down on them if they open up, even when many of those same peers would actually be supportive. And that fear bleeds into dating. 75% of men admit they rarely or never show vulnerability on a first date because they're afraid of looking weak. It's not that they don't want connection, because honestly, most guys do. They want connection, they want peace, they want happiness. It's that they don't believe it's safe to actually go there. But here's the irony. Surveys keep saying vulnerability should pay off. In one Hinge study of over 4,000 singles, 93% said they want a partner who can show emotional vulnerability. And those who did were 2/3 more likely to land a second date. Why am I saying job? It's crazy. Yeah, who knows? Okay, people even ranked vulnerability. I swear I have dysgraphia, y'all. Like I just threw that word in there. Second date, second job. Doesn't even correlate. Anyways, people even ranked vulnerability as more important than looks, income, or height. Did you hear that? People even ranked vulnerability as more important than looks, income, or height. So here's the paradox again. The public wants it, but private behavior hasn't caught up. Men sense the risk, and women sometimes send mixed signals without even realizing it. And that's funny. But the reason why people want you to show your vulnerability, because a lot of guys, you're like a statue. You're fit, and you generally know what you're doing, and you can get down and fix your car, and you can fix what's going on in the roof, or there's various things that guys can fix. Like a lot of guys are fixers, right? Or they'll get a roll of duct tape and a hammer and they can fix anything. You know what I mean? Like the average guy. Many guys can, obviously. But for a guy to actually tear into his soul and tell you how he really feels, that's what people don't have. That's what women don't see from most guys. And they say they want it. Although I can argue and say, if you've ever tried crying in front of your wife or your girlfriend because of drama you're going through, it's not a good look. And they'll tell you themselves. But they do want your vulnerability. That's what they say, right, ladies? All right. So let's clear this up. Vulnerability itself is not the villain. In mature relationships, self-disclosure is one of the biggest predictors of intimacy and satisfaction. See that? As you go on, as the relationship continues. As couples gradually share their inner world, they grow closer. So in other words, generally you become more friends later on. The research is consistent. Self-disclosure increases trust, commitment, and long-term connection. But the key word there is gradual. The most successful couples reveal themselves in layers, not floods. And you can kind of look at it like this way, okay? You show up, you're on a date or whatever it is, or you're meeting up with somebody, whatever it is. You don't want to hear how many things have broken them and destroyed them up to this point, and that's why they're still available to hang out with you. But on the other side, in a relationship, you want to know that there's something behind the good looks, something behind the height, something behind how much he makes. You know what I mean? You want to know that there's an actual real person who feels, who hurts, someone who can relate to some of the things that you've gone through. So I think that's where that's where the issue lies as far as what we want. And I think maybe we're saying, or women are saying, that they all want the same thing, but maybe just not at the beginning. Definitely not in a flood of, emotion right at the beginning. There's a story I love from a dating coach, Logan Yuri. I think it's Yuri. A man once feared his sobriety history would ruin his chances of dating. He stayed quiet, convinced no one would want to know, but eventually he learned to frame it differently, not as baggage, but as growth. He'd say, I struggled with alcohol. I've been sober for years, and I'm proud of the work I did to get here. One night, he met a woman with her own scars, and when he told the story, it didn't push her away. It drew her in. She said, our baggage could match. The first date turned into a committed relationship, eventually a child. His vulnerability wasn't weak, it was framed as resilience, and it connected them. This brings me to the 3 dials that decide whether male vulnerability helps or hurts: timing, framing, and dose. Timing matters. Intimacy needs to be earned. Don't dump your deepest trauma on a date 1. Instead, let trust build. Framing matters. Lead with growth, not grievance. You know what she did? She's crazy. You can't do it that way. Say what you've learned and not just what you feel and what happened to you. Don't stop at I'm anxious. Add therapy and running have helped me a lot, right? That shifts the message from instability to resilience, to work. And dose matters. Vulnerability is seasoning, not the entire meal. A little honesty goes further than an avalanche. Let it come in layers so the relationship deepens, but step by step. The best way I could say it is like allow somebody to digest what you've just said. But if you make it too thick, nobody can get through it. You can only eat so much mashed potatoes or so much porridge, even if it tastes good at the beginning. And, vulnerability in heavy doses is very thick and hard to digest. And the amount of questions that the person would probably be scared to ask and fear of breaking you down that are probably there if you tell too much right off the bat. So, man, what does this mean for you? Thinking of vulnerability like a dimmer switch, right? Start low, then slowly turn the lights up. So they have time to adjust their eyes, right? Lead with your values, passion, and goals. Those show competence, direction, and ambition, right? Once trust is there, open up about the harder things. And when you do, always pair it with a plan. If you mention a struggle, show how you're handling it. That makes vulnerability land as a strength. And most importantly, build a circle of support outside of your dating. Do not expect, and guys, you do this all the time, do not expect your girlfriend or your wife to be the end all be all when it comes to your emotional support. You should still seek support outside of your relationship from your friends, if you have any, maybe coworkers, family, whatever you have, or develop some, you know? And how do you do that? Of course, go into a gym. Maybe if you play a sport, maybe join a men's league in something that you're half decent at. If you're not, maybe a club of something. Maybe you're into books and you join or groups where they do book talks and stuff like that. Or maybe you join a church and you join a men's club, or maybe you just hang out with the neighbor. Maybe develop some friends where you live. There's different ways of developing relationships with guys so that you can support one another, on a different level than whatever's going on inside your home or in your relationship. Talk to your friends, mentors, or therapists. You can get counseling. And I know a lot of jobs, people don't access a lot of their benefits, but a lot of jobs, especially jobs that are full-time and careers, of course, offer some type of therapy, right? You might be able to have somebody to talk to hash out some of the issues that maybe you've gone through and you haven't been able to really work out over your life. Don't put every burden on a woman you just met. That's how you balance being authentic, but you stay attractive. Women's and women, sorry. Here's your part. When a man does share something meaningful, separate the content from his character. If he admits to anxiety or hardship, don't automatically see it as weakness. Look at how he's dealing with it. Reward measured honesty. A simple thanks for sharing that with me goes a long way. Signal safety. Let him know disclosure won't be judged. Remember, men are holding back because they're underestimated in many cases, and they worry how women are going to respond to what they have to say. You have the power to prove them wrong and show them it's safe to open up in steps. And another thing, women, a lot of guys, I can tell you right now, are concerned that the stuff they tell you when you're angry is just going to be brought up. There'll be some negative spin. It's sad, and maybe the best thing I can say, because I know that nobody, not all women are the same. But if we have an argument in July and I have to bring out some information about me that maybe you didn't know, right? And I tell you the story, you say you understand, and you really do understand, and you get where I'm coming from. Maybe it helps bridge the gap of whatever it is we are going through. Please, when September rolls around, do not take it and throw it back in my face. Leave what happened in July. And if you need to go through the whole thing, then make it be closer to July than September. You understand? Like, that's why guys most of the time don't want to bring up things or open up or tell you what really happened, because they know in many cases it'll be thrown back in their face, and nobody likes it. Women don't like it either, guys. For couples already together, make vulnerability structured, not just spontaneous. Create a weekly or a bi-weekly check-in, a time where both of you share wins and struggles. And I know it might sound too structured, but I think sometimes our relationships do need structure. For those of you who've had many relationships that have failed and you've been winging it all this time, you might want to stop, get some structure, and talk about those wins and those struggles in specific places. Because when you're set and you know exactly what you're going to be discussing or the types of things, you can create that safer space. Every day you should be technically in a safe space with your spouse or your partner. But when you know that you're going to go and talk about like really, really serious things, I think it's good to know that you're both focused so nobody slips up and says the wrong thing. When partners schedule this, it keeps vulnerability from showing up only as crisis talk. So something bad, as I was saying, something bad happens in July, you talk about it, hash it out. Oh, I didn't know, make up, everything's good. September rolls around and it's thrown back. Like, we need to know that it's not just I'm not only going to peel back the curtain when I'm in trouble. Right? That's not always the best place to be dumping that stuff out, in other words. And I guess that's the reason why it gets thrown back at guys. Because it's like, oh, you're manipulating me to feel sorry for you when I was angry with you. And now I can't be. Anyhow, and set a rule. Nothing shared gets weaponized. And this is what I was saying to you. That promise transforms vulnerability from a risk into a tool for trust. So, as I said, don't just use it whenever, bring it back up and try to throw it in somebody's face. You know, your intelligence is shown many times by the words that you choose to say and the words you choose not to say. Yes, anybody can throw a memory of a conversation or an argument or something bad that happened in somebody's life. Very easy. You remember it, right? But, and also it's easy to throw those four-letter words around, right? But it takes somebody with patience, love, and care and intelligence to formulate proper words in a discussion and not to rehash things and try to weaponize them to hurt somebody's feelings, to gain power or hand in a conversation or relationship, or wear the pants, and all the other power move type things that people do. Remember, your spouse is and your partner is not your enemy. They should be bone and bone and flesh of my flesh, you know? Bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Your wife and your husband, anyway. Okay. So here we land. The vulnerability paradox isn't about morality, it's about signals and timing. Men aren't wrong to sense risk in being too open too soon, and women aren't wrong to crave honesty. The fix isn't to shut men down or to expect them to hand over their therapy notes on date one. The fix is alignment. Steadiness first, then honesty in measures and steps, and scaling depth together. That's when attraction and intimacy finally meets. And obviously, don't try to outdo each other too. I think that's how those things usually come up early in like relationships and stuff, where people try to outdo each other. It's like, okay, I got a story. Well, I got a story. To see who can get more brownie points for being sappy, or who can tell the most heartfelt worst situation or X story, and leave the X's out of it. Unless the person asks you how long you've been single, sure, but you don't have to go into what he did or what she did to you while you're single now, right off the bat. Doesn't help anybody right at the beginning, trust me. If tonight's talk or today's talk resonated with you, share it with someone you care about. Please subscribe to You're Probably Right for more grounded conversations on dating, psychology, a little bit here and there, mental health, life, family. Check the show notes for links to the research we discussed, if I decide to put them out here. And the next time you're on a date, remember, this confidence and vulnerability don't have to fight. They can work together if you get the timing right. Anyhow, y'all, I'm MCM. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time on You're Probably Right. Take care. Hey, come check out You're Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 docs. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while, understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully, the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.